Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host Raghunath and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Makeover Monday, a day to refocus, recalibrate, rethink who you want to become. Got to do this on a regular basis because I get swept away by the currents of life. And I have to always check in with myself on the regular. Anybody with me?
It's Tuesday, Prabhu.
It's important. It's Tuesday. Okay.
Forget all that.
Forget it. Do whatever you want today. It's Go Crazy Tuesday. What happened yesterday? Where was I?
There wasn't a show. You were traveling.
Okay. There wasn't a show. I was in flight. Okay. Let's do whatever you want Tuesday. It's Arranged Marriage Tuesday. Okay. Hey guys, it's time for the Bhakti-yogi. And we had a long weekend. I went to Houston and Nashville. I met tons of others out there. Others are out there. All these people at the Houston, at Big Yoga Houston were coming up to me. Watch the show all the time. Watch the show all the time.
Nice.
So just want to give a shout out to Houston and Nashville people. Really nice program. I got home. There's some presents left for me. We'll talk about them tomorrow. Rocco, there's a dog about to chase our sheep out the window. I see it happening right now. Okay. Sorry for that little notice, but there's a dog about to chase our sheep. Okay. Okay, Kaustubha, how are you?
I'm okay.
I got a nugget for y'all.
Okay, who's it coming from?
A Lakota nugget, we call it. A Native American.
Oh yeah.
A Native American nugget. They're rich with nuggets themselves. You know what? Truthfully, truth is truth. I'll take truth wherever I can get it. I don't have to have Hindu truth or Christian truth or Jewish truth or Native American. Truth is truth. Take it where you get it, imbibe it, drink it up, and put it back out there in the world. Mm-hmm. And I'm always looking for truth wherever I can hear it. And no religion's got a monopoly on truth. That's for sure. So this is from, it's called Instructions for the Living.
Okay. You know who it's actually coming? It's Lakota wisdom here, but it's from particular, it said that it's coming from particular tribe figure.
White Buffalo Calf Woman?
That's right.
White Buffalo Calf Woman?
Mm-hmm. She's a legend in the Lakota tradition. Let's hear it.
All right. Friend, do it this way. That is, whatever you do in life, do the very best you can with both your heart and your mind.
This is important, right? Both heart and mind together. And, I think that could be understood in two ways, right? Like we could say with both like your rational side and your emotional side.
I like that. But
when I read this, I think it's even more like getting into that yogic thing. When we say the heart, we're talking about the self, right? The soul, which is there in the region of the heart. So with the soul and the mind together, right? We're the soul, we're the observer, we're the heart, you could say. And then we have this mind that it gets programmed in all kind of crazy ways. And usually the nature of the soul, which is pure and selfless and service and loving, and that often the mind is out of sync with it. But if the heart and the mind are in sync, which means if the mind becomes in tune with the heart, well, then let's hear what White Buffalo.
I like the Lakota purports by Kaustubha. you should
sit down in the
great Acharya of the Lakotas.
I would love it. It would be wonderful to discuss these things.
Okay, and if you do it that way, the power of the universe will come to your assistance.
That's the
if your heart and your mind,
right?
if your heart and your mind,
yeah, go ahead, yeah.
If your heart and your mind are in unity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When one sits in the hoop of the people, one must be responsible because all of creation is related. And the hurt of one is the hurt of all. Isn't that beautiful? The hurt of one is the hurt of all. And the honor of one is the honor of all. Like we always say, you don't live in a bubble, you don't live in a snow globe, right? Whatever we do affects people around us. And whatever we do, what? That's the next line. And whatever we do affects everything in the universe.
You're thinking like
I'm thinking like Lakotas. And if you do it that way, that is, if you truly join your heart and mind as one, whatever you ask for, that's the way it's going to be.
I love it.
That is beautiful, huh?
It's so insightful.
That is.
It's
yes. Go on. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say that right. You just read right through this, and it's basically telling us so much of the exact kind of thing we're talking about here in Bhagavatam. So much of the exact kind of thing that Kapila Deva is explaining to Devahuti. It's a friend. Do it this way, right? Like live this way, embrace this idea, right? That whatever you do in life, you do the best you can, but you do it with this unity of the heart and the mind. And then she says, and if you do it that way, the power of the universe will come to your assistance. What is the power of the universe? And the same Lakota, they speak of the Great Spirit. We're each a spirit, but then there's the Great Spirit. We're each spirit, which means Atma, but then there's the Great Spirit, Paramatma, right?
It's a Chincha Beta Beta Tattva, isn't it?
Well, I mean, that's there, but I'm just, in other words, there's the power of the universe means that there's a consciousness spread throughout every atom of the universe, right? And that's the Paramatma that's not only in every atom of the universe, but also in your own heart, ready to communicate with you. So when you say, I want my, Bhagavad Gita says that when one has conquered the mind, then the Paramatma is already reached. All right. So then once you bring your mind, conquer it, meaning bringing it into union with the nature of the self, so that the qualities of the self also are there in the mind. Well, then the Paramatma is already reached and is there to assist you. So it says the power of the universe will come to assist you if your heart and mind are in unity. And then it starts talking about, okay, well, how does that relate to like how I relate to others? Then she starts to speak about the hoop of the people, right? Like if you're sitting
the hoop
in
of the people. I like that.
We're all in the hoop.
This is sort of our Zoom hoop we're looking at right now.
Yeah, it's a hoop in a sense.
We got 104 people on Zoom in our Zoom hoop. And then there's the other hoop that's like concentric circles. Right now we're the hoop within that hoop.
Okay. Inner hoop.
And to continue on with our hoopla, Prabhu.
Yeah.
That little pun, Mayor thought it was funny. Yeah, I was just thinking about what were you just saying? I lost my train of thought. You had a good
well,
thing.
I was going to read this next.
I was going to spin off that
from the Lakota. I'm not sure what you were going to say.
Oh, okay, just go.
Well, so then it begins to speak about how we relate with other people, and how, and this is the same philosophy that we're hearing, right? If that great spirit is within me, if that great spirit is within you and every single person, if we're all composed of the same spiritual energy, well, then we have to be responsible with everyone in all creation. So it says one must be responsible because all of creation is related, right?
Right.
And the hurt of one is the hurt of all. In other words, I see God in you. If I hurt, and God is in everyone. If I hurt you, in one sense, I'm hurting everyone, right? And so then you honor that. And the honor of one is the honor of all, and whatever we do affects everything in the universe. And then it concludes, if you do it that way, that is, if you truly join the heart and mind, if you truly bring your mind through the practice of bhakti yoga, if you reprogram that mind, if you revive that mind, if you purify that mind so that it's perfectly harmonious with the heart or the soul, then whatever you ask for, that is the way it's going to be. Right? Prabhupada's talking about a lot in these commentaries, talking about independence in the last chapter that we just read. Independence, right? That I'm not controlled by my mind. I'm not controlled by my senses. I become independent. I become free. And when you're operating in that realm, your desires are fulfilled, right? Because you're working in harmony with the Great Spirit, if you want to put it in the Lakota language.
You know, Prabhu,
Yes.
I remember what I was going to say. You know, sometimes people will say, well, you know, I get it. Like everything we do is going out there. If I'm working on something good and it's going out there, it affects everybody around us. But there's so much negative energy out there. There's so many bigger demons than whatever good I'm doing. The demons are, and we say demons, we don't mean little red guy with horns. We mean people are just going against nature and they're creating havoc in the world. How are we supposed to do? And it can get very depressing if you really, start to study what's going on with the environment, what's going on in nation versus nation, what's going on with people's personal freedoms, etc. And people can get really depressed and feel like, you know what? What good is it? What good is my stupid little organic garden that I'm doing? And the answer is, it is good. Your 4x4 organic garden is very, very, very good. And guess what? Life is eternal. It doesn't end here. We are in one thin page of an encyclopedia of our soul's existence. And even though you feel like sometimes, because people come to me like with this, people come depressed sometimes. And they say, even though you might seem overwhelming by forces of wrongness, like that Moby record, it's called Everything is Wrong. I saw that for the first time. I was like, yeah, everything's wrong. Everything's going wrong. We created everything wrong. But guess what? It's not wrong as long as you're going right. And your choices in this world are affecting people, and your life is eternal. Even if everything happens apocalyptic, life is eternal. Life still goes on. In the same way, it doesn't stop when you die. Like people are going back to, even though I died today, people are going to work tomorrow. The whole world isn't going to take the day off when Raghunath dies. It's just going to keep going on. And in the same way, the jiva still continues on. The spirit still goes on. And it's our duty to make those very positive expressions in this world, the spiritual expressions, and it affects our destination, not just tomorrow and next week and next month, in our next lives as well. So all our good that you're offering into this world, don't think it's in vain. Don't think you're going against a tsunami of hate. You're making a difference. That's my new sound for, what do you think about that, Kaustubha?
Okay. Well, just as you're speaking, it was occurring to me. Something was crystallizing in my mind, Raghunath, by your inspiration. And that is that when you look at the world from the perspective of the Atma, which is from the perspective of eternity, from the perspective of the situation that I'm in right now, including my body and where I'm born and even my own species and gender and all of that, it's a temporary situation. As well as my influence, right? Like the level of my influence. Like you're saying, right, it could get depressing. I got my little organic garden here, but I'm not changing the world. I've got my own little spiritual practice, but I'm not changing the world. What's the point? Right? What's
the point? There's a point.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, and it's like even if you go, with Stephen Covey, who wrote that book, The 7 Habits of...
Love that. If you haven't read that book,
it's a good
read
book.
that book. It sounds like, it doesn't sound so attractive by the title. Mara, have you read it?
There's wisdom in it.
Oh my God. It's like... tons of wisdom.
Have you read
7 Habits of Highly Effective People?
That's how did you become?
She's like, why do I need this book in my life
without it?
I tell you, read this book, you'll revolutionize your life, Mara. I steal everything from it. Whoops! I don't know if we're allowed to say that.
Okay, so
we're like, wait a second. This is what Raghunath. Yeah, you guys are going to lose all respect for me once you read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You realize my whole life is plagiarism.
So one of the points that he makes, one of the topics that he speaks on is one circle of concern and one circle of influence.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. So my circle of influence may be very small. There's my own life and my own behavior and the people that I interact with, my family and so on. And maybe by becoming a better person, I can have a positive influence on them. But I don't see, but my circle of concern is much wider. I'm looking at the whole world and saying it's a mess. And it doesn't seem like my circle of influence is extending very, very far. My circle of concern is a tiny little circle within a very big circle of concern.
Right. Right.
But the point that he makes is that if you focus on your circle of concern, but you have no influence there, you're not being so efficient or effective, highly effective, right? But if you actually focus on your circle of influence, then what happens naturally is that your circle of influence grows and it begins to expand and take up more of your circle of concern. And if we're looking at our life, if we're looking at my existence as not just this one life, but I'm going to come back in the next life, right? Imagine if we could look at our lives from a distance. Say we could look at our past.
Our lives,
life.
That would be cool. Like zoom out of this life. Okay, remember when I was 5? Remember when I was 15? Zoom out of all your lives.
What's the progression?
Remember when I was a cricket? Oh, that sucked.
But it may be that
it was great for a while, and then all of a sudden the frogs came and the birds came. Sorry about that.
No problem. So, but my point is, imagine if we could understand that I'm doing because people are quick. What we do nowadays, what social media has done to us, is that we have this big circle of concern, and we just start to shoot arrows into that circle of concern, through social media, and just like criticize this person or that, and it's not doing any. It actually has no influence.
No influence whatsoever. It doesn't change anything.
Arguing it doesn't change ourselves as well.
Right? No, generally it makes us a little nasty.
I'm shooting these nasty arrows out into the circle of my concern, and I'm not actually working on my circle. And then someone comes along and says, "Oh, you're spiritually bypassing." No, I'm not actually. I'm doing serious spiritual work. I'm trying to actually embody all of this talk, right? All of this wisdom. And imagine what, maybe your life, maybe this life, you do a lot of that work in a small circle of influence. And maybe in your next life, you're given a massive circle of influence, because you put in the work, because you could actually carry it.
I tell you, it's good to zoom out of life. It's good to zoom out of lives. I like this, Kaustubha.
All right. Zoom the hell out.
Zoom the hell out. It changes stuff. There's another important point to make with this Lakota thing is we shouldn't, and I train myself. I really train myself because when you get into like religious rituals and, we worship Radha and Krishna and it's important to see yourself connected with all these traditions. I find because otherwise you're training yourself to be a sectarianist. And so it shouldn't be like, oh man, those Lakotas, they got a good one. And now Lakotas 2, Hindus 1. And here come the Christians with John the Baptist. He said something pretty good there. And Thomas Aquinas, oh, that was good. The Baptist, the dark horse from behind is Catholicism. No, we should see where there's truth. That's me. I'm connected with all these traditions. You have not quit a tradition of truth to join another tradition of truth. Truth is truth, and it's nice to see it. And when I read something like this, I don't feel like those other truth guys are now like catching up. I feel like this is us. This is us. We should be able to go into a mosque or a church or a synagogue or a temple or and converse with people of other traditions and say, you know what? I really appreciate how you're taking steps forward on your spiritual path. And when I see you next time in New York over Christmas, Kaustubha, we are going to go to St. Patrick's Cathedral and we are going to sing together.
All right. Are you coming for Christmas to New York?
I'm coming to Christmas.
All right. Good. Yeah. I'm cutting out the next day. So I cut out for London the day after.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, you're going to have Christmas with your family, I suppose.
Christmas with my mom.
Why don't you do Christmas Eve? Christmas Eve at Casa Kaustubha.
Ooh, could be nicey.
Casaramella. Maybe make a little pizza.
Right. Well, you're squirreling it today, kid, but
What?
I said you're squirreling it.
Oh, well, that wasn't a squirrel.
No, it was a squirrel. It was a sweet invite. All right, so what do you say we get into the Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhu? It was a nice little thing there.
Yeah.
Okay. Narayanam namaskrityam nunam shaiva narottamam vedim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshvabhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the transcendental Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksuranmidatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto their lotus feet. Right. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
Canto 3. What's our chapter? We're in a new chapter, I think.
You tell me. That's right. We are.
We're starting chapter 28.
Thank you, Mara. She comes to my rescue. By the way, it might be the last day of Kartik today.
No, I think it's Thursday.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
all right, so we're in the Bhishma Panchaka then. We're in the midst of it, right? These are the last 5 super sacred days. You know what they say? They say this is the day Lord Vishnu from his slumber starts to roll over. You ever heard that?
No, I didn't.
Serious. And it's these last days are very auspicious. Some people like to do some little bit of extra austerity on these last few days, and they're super potent. If you've missed the austerity, you know what it is? Because it's also the last of the 4 months of Chaturmas.
Mm-hmm. That's right. The end of Chaturmasya.
And it ends with
what is Chaturmasya?
Chaturmasya is, it's the 4 days of the rainy season. The mas is the month, and the chatur is like chaturanga. Yeah. So it's the 4 months of the rainy season where sadhus don't travel because it's the monsoon season.
Monsoon.
And before they made quality umbrellas, and the sadhus would just stay and study. So there's different austerities they do. Some of the austerities are sort of like for mystical power. Some are for like good karma. In bhakti, we're not so interested, not really that interested in mystical things. We just go for bhakti. Give us bhakti, give us love of God. And so you get some special, what do you call it? Special
punya,
special goodies if you do some special austerities. And these last 4 days or so, or 5 days, are very, very concentrated goodies. So if you want to add some extra japa, extra reading, we're going to do Sweet Baby Krishna tomorrow night. And so, just putting that out there.
Okay.
And it ends with this big, beautiful moon. In America, we call it the blood moon. And I hate that word, the blood moon. What is it, like a murder movie? Let's call it what do you call it? It's like is it the Rasa Purnima moon, Kaustubha?
Well,
the Rasa Purnima is the first one.
Well, they call it both Rasa Purnima. Honestly, it's something I never fully understood. But that Rasa, there's the last day they also call Rasa Purnima. So there's many Rasa dances. So I'm not sure, to be honest. But they do call.
Let's just call it the Rasa Purnima, or I'll do some research. Or Mara will do some research. What's the last full moon called? I think that's the day of the Rasa. It's a beautiful pink moon. It's not a blood moon. Okay. It's a pink, beautiful moon to dance with Krishna. Okay, let's dive in.
So we're on chapter 28, which is entitled
Kapila's instructions on the execution of bhakti.
Yeah, really,
devotional service.
It's a chapter that's describing Ashtanga yoga, but a bhaktified Ashtanga yoga, an Ashtanga yoga where it is very clearly, if you read the description of Ashtanga yoga given by Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras, it's going to be a bit like the focus that's here on Vishnu will be more subtle in the Yoga Sutras. Right? Whereas here, when Kapila is teaching Ashtanga Yoga prior to Patanjali, and what's going to play out in this chapter is it's going to describe the practice of Ashtanga yoga. It's going to describe the yamas and the niyamas. It's going to describe all the 8 limbs, and it's going to show. And then once Kapil Dev is going to describe the whole thing to Devahuti, and then he's going to follow it up after he explains the practices and the effect that they have on one. Then he's saying the whole point is to focus on Lord Vishnu, to meditate on the body, on the form of Lord Vishnu, and then he's going to give an elaborate description of that form. And then at the end of the chapter, he's going to describe how this kind of meditation brings you to that kind of Lakota kind of vision, where you see the soul in every living being, and you see every living being in the great soul and the great spirit in the Paramatma. So he's describing bhakti within the context of Ashtanga yoga. You're performing Ashtanga yoga to bring the mind to a very peaceful place so you can totally focus it with love and devotion in the heart on the form of Lord Vishnu.
Let's hit it.
All right.
The personality of Godhead, so that's Kapila Dev, said, "My dear mother, O daughter of the king, I shall now explain to you the system of yoga, the object of which is to concentrate the mind. By practicing this system, one can become joyful and progressively advance towards the path of the absolute truth."
Okay.
Text 2. One should execute his prescribed duties to the best of his ability. This is so Lakota. To the best of his ability, and avoid performing duties not allotted to him.
Do it right. That's what he.
Do what you do, and don't do ever the people. Right.
Yeah, do it right. What does she
one
say?
should be sat.
She said,
one should be sat.
Do it this way. That is, whatever you do in life, do it the very best you can, right? With both your mind and heart.
One should be satisfied with as much gain as he achieves by the grace of the Lord, and one should worship the lotus feet of the spiritual master.
Okay.
Let's tease that out a little.
The whole verse, or just that last?
No,
part?
just that lotus feet of the spiritual master. Unless you have something to say about before that.
Why don't we just briefly say what's happening here now? Say someone says, I want to practice yoga. I want to get spiritual. I'm into that. Okay, well, if you want to practice yoga, Kapil Dev's going to describe the seriousness of it, right? Like, he said that it's all about concentrating the mind. So if you're actually going to be really able to do that and not just approach it on a superficial level, I do some asana, I wear the clothes, whatever.
Right.
Then he says, okay, well, this is where it starts. It starts with being a dutiful person, right? One should execute their prescribed duties to the best of their ability. That means, within this yoga culture that had socially, these things were laid out very clearly. What your role in society was, what your prescribed duties were. And it's less clear in our day and age. But even simply, we can understand, if you're a parent, you've got important responsibilities. You have to, don't think you're going to be a great yogi if you're not taking care of that responsibility first.
There you go.
Right? We have responsibilities to, within our workplace, within to the broader society, within our, how our occupation relates to the broader society. Am I actually operating in a dutiful way? So that's, if not, then it's very likely that your mind is going to become plagued or troubled in some way. And that'll make it very hard for you to concentrate the mind. So just in a very practical way, not just in a moral way, right? But that morality has a practical, element to it when it comes to having a peaceful mind. So it begins with perform your prescribed duties to the best of your ability. Don't try to take up a duty that's not yours, and that's a whole nother subject, because when we're operating in a way that it's all these duties were designed like, okay, we understand your psychology, let's prescribe this duty for you, which is going to work towards your strengths and help you overcome your weaknesses. The duty is designed that way, right?
Yeah. Kaustubha, a lot of times I just did a teacher training module this weekend. You get a lot of people who are like, I'm not quite even sure what my duty is. This is like the Genesis question. Like, what? Who am I? Why am I here? This is a super important question. We have to bring up, and we have to sort of like check in with ourselves on a regular basis. What is my offering to the world? What is my unique offering to the world that I can? And it's not just an offering, because you could say, well, I'm a criminal. That's my offering. I do it well. But it's got to be something that's going to benefit you and benefit all the living entities within these. And it's like an offering back of your gift. And what are you going to give back? And this is like, self-help gurus talk about this stuff like that. But it is something that is connecting you with the whole. Yeah. And if you don't know that, it's important to really dig deep and get to that point. Like, what is my gift? Now, some people know, like, I'm a mom. That is my main gift right now. I got to take care of these kids. Yeah. But we might go through this period either in young or midlife. Like, what the hell am I doing? Yeah, working my ass off, busy doing nothing. What is my offering here? And so once you do figure that out, then the next phase is like, no, like, look at Mara. She's just there cooking right now. Listen to Bhagavatam chopping things precisely, thinking about Lord Vishnu as she chops. With every chop, she's like, Lord Vishnu, this is for you. So it's once you know, like, I'm a chef, I'm a cook, then you start to, the next phase is you refine your offering. And that generally has to do with refining who yourself. Not just you start to refine internally yourself, and then the offering becomes more and more effective. The last part of that verse, if I can go on, and it winds up, and I will say it strikes a nerve with a lot of Americans too. One should be satisfied with as much as he gains, and by the grace of the Lord, and one should worship the lotus feet of the guru. It's like, why do they always have to spoil it with like worship? Why can't I just like be proud of what I'm doing for me? No, we say no. Yoga tradition says no. It always goes back to appreciation of those who've walked the path before us. I've got what I've got by the mercy of others. That's a mantra I want to say on a regular basis, because I have a tendency to learn something and then I teach it to somebody and then I think like, yes, I am the reservoir of all knowledge. No, I got what I got by the mercy of other people. And it keeps my big fat ego in check by realizing that everything valuable has been handed to me. And the whole yoga system is like that. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. But that gratitude and appreciation for the trickling down of spiritual truth must be there to grow in the yoga practice. And I will say, it keeps you, I was going to say humble, but humble isn't good because humble sounds sort of meek. It's not just meekness. It keeps you honest.
I like it. Yeah. Well, we were talking last week about the role of trust, right? And that there has to be someone in this world that you can put your trust and some faith in.
Yeah.
Really, it's sad. It just thinking about this and hearing you discuss this, in one sense, it's one of the greatest crimes to be like some kind of, let's say, two-faced spiritualist kind of phony guru, whatever,
Right.
We're someone who has a desire to be worshipped and a desire to be the center of the attention and desire to be adored and so on. And maybe even financial desires or sexual desires get mixed into the whole thing, and they're playing it all off as like they're kind of like some spiritual guide. In one sense, that it's such a heinous crime.
Yeah.
I was thinking Law and Order. It's a particularly heinous crime because it destroys faith, and faith is so essential for someone's spiritual progress. So like, it's a fact, like when someone reads this, worship the feet of the spiritual master, it's kind of like when you ruffle the feathers the wrong way or something like that. When you have a cat and you pet it the wrong way, right? And the fur is going on. Yeah. It's like, don't do that. Right?
Yeah, yeah. They hate that.
Really, we're living in a bizarre society, even like what we're discussing here, like we should all know what our duty, because we
should know what our duties are, right?
We should know what our duties early in life, and we should be married early in life generally, and like these things should be figured out, but we embrace the idea of independence so like tightly that we're living in a world where like a lot of us are even middle-aged and we don't know what we're meant to be doing in this world, and we're not married, or we're wondering if we will, it's like,
now that I'm thoroughly depressed.
but another weird part of the world that weird aspect of the world that we're living in is that we should, as we're growing up, we should have no problem just reeling off a long list of people that people in our own lives that we know, that we really admire and see as mentors or see as people that are really trustworthy, and have really helped us. In the world we live in right now, we're lucky if we have a few people like that. We're lucky.
Sure.
But we really, if when society's operating, if in a way that's much more smooth and where we're kind of filtering out so much of the garbage that we're allowing to enter into our minds, we should have figures in our lives. When we hear this, we say, of course we should honor you go to the Lakota people, you think they didn't honor their elders?
Yeah.
Wherever you see a wisdom tradition, there's going to be honoring of the elders there.
Sure.
And so,
and even sometimes the elders get a little kooky as they get older. That happens. you know what? You love them and they respect them anyway because they're elders.
Even the kooky ones.
Kaustubha, this isn't a squirrel, although it sounds like one. Guess what my favorite toy was growing up?
Oh,
like 7.
I don't know. What?
You can't guess? G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe. The big ones in a box. The big, giant, big ones. And I could never afford. They were not that expensive back then, but I just couldn't afford them because we just never had that much money. So, what I would do is they'd have a bargain bin, and the bargain bin was like all the other GI Joes were in like perfect boxes, and they came with all the perfect accessories. It came with the gun. It came with a name tag. It came with all the boots, sometimes a hat, and but they were a lot cheaper, if not half price, if you got like the bargain bin toys. And it's like, this GI Joe is missing a hand, or they're probably like returned, and so I would shop in the bargain bin, and it's just a little broken. It's just like we say dented cans. And there are classic societies where the elders are worshipped, well, the elders are good people, where the elders are noble, and we might not have had that.
Yeah.
There is where, that we were married at, 19, or we were high school sweethearts, or it was an arranged marriage. And then we married, and then we had these incredible sons and daughters, and they went on to do great things. And we may not have that. Right. We might be. And then there was a thing where, and then we grew up and we lived these like perpendicular and parallel lives. And we realized, we didn't do that either. We somehow like took a big detour in Albuquerque and ended up somewhere over here. And that's our Wisdom of the Sages community. For the most part, we're a bunch of dented cans. We're in the bargain bin. And now what? Now, what are we going to do about that? And that's okay too. Because there is sort of traditions, and then we might be really untraditional, and that's okay. Because wherever we are, we're here right now, and we're moving forward. And that's the beautiful thing. It's the beautiful thing. Truthfully, it's the beautiful thing about Bhakti culture. And sometimes when we read about the previous culture, and I was just, driving to school with Rocco or Tarun, and we were listening to the Ramayana, and everything is like perpendicular and parallel in the family lines. And this is my honorable son and my honorable great-grandfather. And I was just thinking, it's nice to reflect on that. But sometimes you can get a little depressed if you don't have that. And we're here to say that's okay.
We're here to say.
We're here to encourage anyway, because you just sometimes don't have that. And we didn't lead that straight life or straight and narrow life. And now it's like, here we are. Let's move forward. And that the Bhakti community nowadays is like that. There's an understanding of the past is the past. Let the dead past bury its dead, and let's just move forward from today on.
That's always been there, right? And we'll see examples. We'll see Mrgari the hunter, or we'll see, like, in other words, even in these ancient texts, it'll take dented cans and show how even though they didn't have the perfect social background and upbringing and circumstance and so on, even they were engaged in a terrible lifestyle. The
Ajamil, Valmiki, there's so many good stories.
So many are there. So the power of the practice of bhakti is that it can purify anyone in any circumstance, right? What's the verse?
Yeah.
About that purification, if you bring your mind. The one I'm thinking of? On the lotus eyes.
Bhagavad Gita?
No.
Oh.
I just need the verse.
Pramanjana Bhakti Vilochanena, that one?
No. The one that you chant at yagnas when
you... Oh, yeah. Om
apavitra pavitro va. Om
I got the melody right.
Yeah, well, as soon as you said Om, I had it. Om apavitra pavitro va, right? That whether one's pure or impure, or in any state of condition, that when one remembers the lotus-eyed Lord, then one becomes purified. And so and so this puts things in context, right? We do aspire, as we all grown up. We've all grown up Botanic cans. Most of us, maybe we have a few, people that grew up in these far out traditional Indian households that really carried that tradition and so on. But probably to one extent or not, especially as Western people, we missed out on all of this kind of thing. And so in one sense, it's a shame. In another sense, we can't approach it the way you're saying, is like, yeah, I'm coming into this dented, but the power of the process is and that should make me humble, right? That should make me like, not thinking I'm some great yogi or some big guru or whatever. No, I'm a Dene Can, but I still have faith. And let me take from this tradition. I can't just create a perfect Vedic society around me, but what I can do is try to take principles from it and apply it in my life, see how they can work, see how these principles can apply in my own life. And that's basically our challenge as yogis, raised in the Western world, find the principles and see how we can apply the principle, even though everything may not be exactly as it's described in these texts. So in this verse, we saw 3 principles have been mentioned already for this practice of yoga, for the practice of concentrating the mind. The first one was sva-dharma-ācaraṇam, which was executing one's prescribed duties. And then the second one is straight out of Yoga Sutras, santoṣaḥ, being satisfied with whatever comes without, it was said here, one should be satisfied with as much gain as they achieve by the grace of the Lord. Santoṣ, right? Content, I'm content, right? And then the third one was ātmavic-caraṇārcanam. Charana means the feet, archana means worshiping, and ātmavic means a self-realized soul. Ātmavic, to know the soul, right? That and this is the qualification. It's not just elder, right? But it's ātmavic. It's a person that really understands the soul, understands their own spiritual nature. I'm not my body. I'm not my mind. I'm not controlled by it. I recognize the soul in you. I respect it. That's the ātmavic. Then that person, we respect, whether they're Lakota or Hindu or whatever they might be. If they're ātmavic, respect, special respect goes there. Special, even saying here, worship, right? It's like full-on respect.
What do we say? What do they say namaste means? Which I don't even think it means that.
It does.
The light
there
in
are
me.
commentaries
Light
like that.
in me.
Well, it gets a little watered down sometimes. But yeah, but the Atma in me, the soul in me, is offering respects to the soul in you. Right? Namaste.
Namaste, Kaustubha.
I mean, not literally namaste, just right. Nama means na ma. It's a statement of humility. Ma means myself, and na ma means like I'm kind of, literally negating the self. But in other words, it's a statement of humility, right? Namaste unto you, right? I bow down unto you.
Namaste.
But it's not the body that we're bowing down, right? It's the soul within. So that's the same which is within me, that is within you. It's the spirit, it's the Atma that I'm bowing down to.
Vivi says, my favorite meaning I learned is namaste, not me, you.
Yeah,
not me, you.
Namaste. Okay.
Not me. It's been all about me. Now, not me, you.
You.
Namaste.
Okay.
Namaste, Mara. Not me, you. You, Mara. Namaste, Kaustubha. Let's just say namaste from now on. Forget this. Hare Krishna. We've been saying that too much.
Excuse me?
What? What did he say? Just joking, just testing you guys.
Right.
Some people are like, yeah, namaste is better. Just checking in. Okay.
Nothing wrong with
continuing
namaste.
on, my friends.
There's a lot of, even the verse that we quote so often, right?
Right? Namaste. Right? Narayanam namas. Wait.
Well, that's not the one I was thinking of. I was thinking about from the 10th canto, 14th chapter, text number 8, about
Tatuna
Kapam. And then it's namaste, by offering from the core of one's heart, offering one's obeisances, namaste. So it's there. We're all for namaste. But you don't throw out Hare Krishna. What was that all about? You don't throw that out.
I'm just pushing the edges and seeing where you guys are at.
Okay.
Okay. One should cease performing conventional religious practices.
Boom.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Like this, right? One should cease performing conventional religious practices and should be attracted to those which lead to salvation. One should eat very frugally and should always remain secluded so that they can achieve the highest perfection of life. I need to hear this verse. I got to eat more frugally.
Yeah. Well, there's more than just that there. So it uses this term grāmya, right? If the
village.
Grāmya.
The village.
Well, okay, conventional here. It's let me look up the word.
Okay.
But grāmya sometimes
Of the Gram, like Nandagram, the village of Nanda.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Nandagram.
Grāmya kata. That same grāmya is used like sometimes there's a phrase grāmya kata, right? Which
it means what? It's just like the type of things they speak about is as you're walking down the street in the village.
Conventional talk.
Who was born? Who like? Hey, what's the latest? Or
Yeah.
some people even say things like, "You got any gossip for me?" That's called grāmya. And I want everyone to use this word today. This phrase, grāmya kata.
Grāmya.
You can go up to one of your friends and go, "I don't want to hear any grāmya kata today."
Enough of your grāmya kata. I want to talk. I want to bring my mind to spiritual subjects, right?
And
Enough of the
when you've been
conventional subjects.
speaking grāmya kata,
Okay.
you get into a little fault finding, a little criticism, you get to some politics. And afterwards you feel like, oh boy, I need a bath from all that grāmya kata. I need a mental bath.
We want
the
Krishna
Bhagavatam
kata.
is that mental bath, huh?
Yeah, Krishna kata rather than Krishna kata over grāmya kata.
Yeah, or we say Hari kata, Krishna
Hari
kata, Ram kata,
Yeah.
right?
Kata means to talk. That to talk. You know, like even there's that style of dance, kathak. You know
Oh, is that from talk?
Because the dance itself tells a story.
Ah,
You see, because every movement has a meaning, so it's telling a story through the dance.
I
Kathak.
find you enlightening, Kaustubha. I find
No,
you an
that was
enlightening
just,
man.
That was just some trivia. That's all. But so here we have the term grāmya-dharma. See, grāmya-dharma,
Yeah,
conventional.
dharma. Oh, so that means religious activities are just like what we say in the West is sort of like it's a ritual, but we don't understand the substance of the ritual.
Yeah.
It's just like a perfunctory religious ritual, which a lot of us grew up to like this is why I'm rejecting religion, because it's just like some rituals. I don't even know what the priest is doing. But actually, there's some substance. We have to understand the and then they're no longer merely rituals. They're actually bringing me to a higher place. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the intention is very important here because a lot of times these rituals are performed like within the Vedic context. They're performed because I want something material, where I'll do the sacrifice because I want wealth or, whatever.
Right.
And, you go into a Hindu temple, you're going to get a lot of this kind of energy generally, right? Where there's going to be priests there and they're going to say, okay, here's where you can come and give a donation and we're going to do a little ritual and it's going to bring you something auspicious, something good in your life, like that. When you want to become a serious yogi, what Kapil Dev's saying here, when you want to really focus and have a very peaceful mind, people with very peaceful minds, they're not thinking that way, right? They're thinking about letting free of all their material attachments, not pursuing them in a pious way, but letting them go. And so one should cease performing conventional religious practices, right? And should be attracted by those which lead to salvation, right? And then it mentions eating very frugally, because obviously the way that we eat affects our mind in a big way. Have we all noticed that before?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the last thing that was mentioned was should remain secluded. If you want to concentrate your mind like an Ashtanga yogi, it requires some seclusion. It requires getting away, because when you're in an atmosphere that's stirring all stuff up, it's hard to settle the mind rather than engaging the mind very actively. If you're just trying to settle the mind very peacefully on one central focus, that's a very difficult practice. And if you're in a place that's not very settled, then you're going to have a hard time doing that. So here we had grāmya-dharma-nivṛttiś, letting go of the conventional religious practices, nivṛtti, right? This negates it.
Yep.
And we had mita-medhyādanaṁ, pure eating, And then we had vivikta-kṣema-sevanam, dwelling in a secluded, peaceful place. And you know what I did this morning, Raghunath? I dwelled in a secluded, peaceful place.
Where?
Right now, I tell you, if you're in New York City in the fall, you go to that ramble in
this morning to the ramble.
Yeah, I've been going there every day. I walked through the thick
light
woods.
Out or dark out? It's a dark out.
Well, the sun's rising. And
Okay.
I'm not going to do it in the dark. I'm not going to wander around there in the dark.
I'm wondering, like Central Park Champ used to be dangerous at night. Maybe it's safe now.
No, it's in the morning that I go.
Okay.
It's not as dangerous as it was, but the ramble used to be kind of creepy, but it's not like that so much anymore. But it's like thick woods. I was wandering there 20 minutes without seeing one person this morning, and it's so beautiful. It's crazy because it's just like all the leaves are different colors, and it's just like carpets of leaves and the curvy paths and everything like that. But there's something special about being even if we don't live in a secluded place and practice this kind of yoga, still we need some of that. It's good for us.
There's these things. If you haven't been to India or into holy places, there's sometimes these sadhus. They build these little boxes. It's very peculiar, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? They're almost like
it's like a little on stilts. You mean like?
No. Like those little they're in Barcelona. They're only like maybe 3.5 feet high, and they just go in there and they just chant. They just ever see those in Barcelona?
Like a
little meditation room
raised off the ground.
Yeah, and they just go in there and chant, and just stay there, like they're bhajan kutir, and that's their spot. It's just like, leave me alone. This is what I built my own little cave, and this is where
doors now.
Yeah, he closed a little tiny door. They can't even stand up in it.
Yeah, I mean, they even have little shops like that in India, right? Like your little where you get your BD or whatever.
Yeah,
but it can be your little bhajan kutir, your little place of worship, right? We all need that.
Okay, let's get on. Let's get on here.
Well, we're done, Raghu.
Is it already?
Yeah, that's it. Time. We're over time.
Oh, okay. Mara, what do we have to put in our pocket to bring with us to brighten up our dark day?
Little Lakota wisdom.
Yeah. No religion has a monopoly on truth.
Love that one.
The hurt of one is the hurt of all.
Ouch. Mm-hmm. Yes.
When you align heart and mind, the universe assists you.
Beautiful.
Ooh,
everything. Yeah, that's a good one. Everything is wrong unless you're going right.
Everything is wrong unless you're going right.
Yeah.
Find your offering and then refine it.
Yes.
I've got what I've got by the mercy of others.
Always good. Always good.
The power of bhakti can purify any dented can.
It's true.
And Krishna kata over grāmya-kata.
Boom.
Right. How about that's so Lakota?
Sure.
That's so Lakota. I'm going to say that today. That's Lakota. How about the basket of misfit toys? We're misfits. That's okay. Now what?
Misfit toys?
Now what are we going to do?
Remember that day? Do you remember
I'm missing a hand. Now what?
Do you remember that day, Raghunath? Before this was Wisdom of the Sages, it was Super Soul Sacred Sangha. You were in Philadelphia. The Misfits were playing, and this whole long thing, we went for a long stretch, turning Misfits songs into Krishna conscious songs, titles.
You can do that. You can do that. Mara's smiling, but she's close. She's never heard the Misfits.
You know the Misfits, man?
You've heard the Misfits?
Misfits.
Come on, Mara. You've never heard of the Misfits.
Give us some titles, then.
Oh.
Give us one.
I got it. Busted.
I've heard of them.
Okay. You.
That's as far as I got.
That reminds me of the time I wore an ELO belt buckle in school, and some kid called me out. Name one ELO song. I was like, I don't know. Can you name an ELO song, Kaustubha?
I know lots of ELO songs.
Really? You know these things.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll have more Kaustubha getting trivia quizzed on ELO, another band, irrelevant bands from the 70s. Thanks for joining us. Hey, I've read a bunch of nice reviews on Apple Podcasts. If you guys haven't written a review on Apple Podcasts, tell us your story. Go to Apple Podcasts, write a review. 5 stars only. We're only accepting 5 stars here. And then tell us your story, how you got here, how you ended up here. It means a lot. I read them all. And if you like what we're doing, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. This is a community-supported podcast. Let's keep this thing going. We are growing with you. We are doing this for our own edification. We're in this with you. We're not above anybody. We're just trying to take advantage of a upgraded community. So thanks, everybody. It's a beautiful day for a beautiful day.